Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Gauthier the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by the guest, myself, or commenters may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It is the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to more complex form. So what is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to more complex human being living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is simulcast live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, Matrix Minds Facebook page, and the ET Whisperer YouTube channel. It is also redistributed from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I'm your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, and we are here yet again on a Wednesday evening. That's 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, like we are every week. And of course, we've got an amazing guest again. Now, this is Ruben's, if we're talking the old version of the show and the new show, our guest tonight, Reuben Langdon, from Interview with Extra Dimensionals. He is here with us, and this is probably his sixth time on our show. He's probably the most had guest on at this point. He's also a dear friend of mine, and we're going to bring him in and chat with him very soon. But before we do, we have a few announcements. The only show announcement that I've got right now that I can think of is that Glenn Mates will be our guest next week. He's an amazing guy, and he's going to be on chatting with us next week. After that, we've got a lot of guests that I'm going to be finalizing, so we'll announce those as we come. And also, big announcement tonight, we are going to be giving a free ticket to a very amazing event, the Lumian Life Expo, which is going to be live streamed, and we're going to be giving a ticket away for today on the show. Worth over $200, and this event is an amazing event. It's going to be from June 20th, 24th. We are going to be doing it live in Mount Shasta, but for those who can't make it to Mount Shasta, we're doing the live stream, and that's the ticket we're giving away tonight. So be near your keyboard or your phone or whatever device you're using, because when it comes time to ask a question about something that we talked about on the show, the first person that gets that answer correctly will win a free ticket to that. So keep your ears peeled, and we will be going through that tonight. Secondly, network announcements. There are none besides the same one I tell you guys all the time. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, you can go to Out There Talk at Instagram. It's an Instagram live show with Valiant himself. Valiant himself, the head singer of the heavy metal band Valiant Thor, which for all of you video game guys in the early 2000s, Guitar Hero 2 had their song Pangea on it. So that guy does a show on our network on Instagram called Out There Talk with Valiant himself, and that's an Instagram live at Out There Talk. Go to Instagram, check him out. It's 11:59 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday and Wednesday. As for ET Whisperer announcements, there are just a few. The first, boom, Lumian Life Expo. I am going to be there. I am going to be doing workshops. It's going to be live stream. It's going to be in person for anyone who can make it out to the Mount Shasta area on the mountain of Mount Shasta. A cool little town called Weed, which is right there on the mountain. It's an amazing event that's going to have amazing presenters. We're going to talk about it a little bit throughout the night also, because Ruben is one of the hosts and creators of this event. So that's coming up. You can get your tickets. I've got links below whether you're doing live stream, whether you're going to buy an in-person ticket, or whether you're going to get workshops, whatever the case is, links are in the description, actually under Ruben's links, because those are some of Ruben's links too. So check those out, guys. That'll be an amazing thing. Then the very next month after that, I am going to be at the Stargate Crusade Retreat. This is not an updated poster, so I'm going to have to drop a new poster up there. I'm sorry, I didn't realize this wasn't the updated one, but it is going to be July 14th through 16th of 2024. We are going to be on the East Coast, on the ocean in Connecticut, and we're going to be there for 3 days doing a CE5 right there on the ocean. It is going to be absolutely crazy, absolutely amazing, absolutely wonderful. The other announcement is going to be, and for that event, you can go to the StargateCrusader.com. That link, if you go to etwhisperer.com, you click on that poster, it'll take you right to that area to get the link. So check that out too. And then the last announcement for the ET Whisperer is in August, I will be with Jim Charles of Human Colonies in upstate New York for a 4-day in the woods retreat. We're all just going to be hanging out at this beautiful camp on a beautiful lake in upstate New York. You have to join the email list to get the information for that. They don't have it set up as a standard event. You can't go to a website, click and buy a ticket. You actually have to fill out a form, which I have the link set up to, and a small video about how that works on my email list. And unfortunately, because there is nowhere to port that, it's hard for me to tell you how to get tickets. So you have to basically join up. But if you're in New York in August, that's coming up. And Kalina Angel is going to be releasing her channeling video. A little hint, it will be of reptilian energy. So it's going to be an amazing video. She's working to get that out in the next week, we're hoping. She's had some tech problems, and that's why that's coming a little slow. Now, let's talk about our guest tonight. Our guest, Reuben Langdon, definitely does not need introduction to most of you who are regulars here, because you guys have seen him here. A lot of you found me through the interview with Extra Dimensionals. But for those who don't know, Reuben Langdon is a multifaceted talent known for his work in Hollywood as a stuntman and an actor, is celebrated for his roles in iconic positions such as the Pirates of the Caribbean, Power Rangers, and Avatar. However, his true calling lies in the realm of spirituality and extraterrestrial phenomenon. As the host of the TV show Interview with Extra Dimensionals, Ruben explores the mysterious, profound connections between humans and extraterrestrial consciousnesses. But I think the best way to have Ruben involved in this chat, instead of just me telling you about all the cool things he does and the cool things he is, I'm just going to bring him in and let him tell yourself. Welcome, brother. How are you doing tonight? Oh, you're still on mute, brother.
I was just going to say, how's my audio sounding? This is not working. So is it, are you getting any feedback or anything? Does it sound okay?
No, you sound great.
Okay, cool. I was just worried I didn't have my earphones working, but thanks for the lovely intro. And yeah, doing great. Always a pleasure to be here with you on your show. So lots to talk about.
Oh, we have lots to talk about for sure. I know most people already know you who are here, but if you could just kind of give a quick summary of that story that brought you to the interview with Extra Dimensionals and got you involved in this community, that would be wonderful.
Sure. So I had a pretty awesome career in stunts in Hollywood and working on video games, doing stuff like the stunt double for Jake Sully in Avatar, the first Avatar film, doing video game work like Dante, playing the role of the motion capture and the voiceover for Dante and Devil May Cry series, and Street Fighter, Ken, and I had my own visual effects studio, so I did a lot of video game work, actually on the production side, producing and hiring other talent and stuff. So I was doing that successfully for a good 10 years or so. And it was while I was working on Avatar that YouTube came out, and we started seeing all these awesome cat videos. And then I stumbled upon Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project that actually happened in 2001, but I was seeing it, I think, in 2005-ish. And I was like, what? How has this happened? I didn't know about this. This is so cool.
Well, that was
And
right after YouTube started, then, like literally like 2005 or 6 then, right?
yeah, pretty much. And it was while I was working on Avatar with some of the other performers, and we were just sitting in the back. There was a lot of free time as the technology that Cameron was developing for the film at that time. Motion capture had been around for a while, but he was really pushing it to the next limit. So there would be these crashes, system crashes, they call them, at various stages. And then, they have a BFC or BFC, which is a really big effing crash. And then they would send everybody down. They'd say, all right, actors, go to your waiting rooms, basically. And we didn't have like in a traditional sort of movie set, because a lot of this stuff, when I started doing it, there was a lot of tests, and we didn't have like the dressing rooms and stuff like that. So they sent us in the back, and all the actors would sort of be like in the makeup corner area. We'd just pull up some chairs, and we'd be on our laptops or phones or whatever. This was even before the iPhone. I remember the iPhone came out while we were working on Avatar. It was a big deal. So anyways, we're just there, we're hanging out, and we're on our laptops or looking at the internet. And then, yeah, the Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project pulled up, and we're sharing. They're like, this is crazy that there's aliens and NASA's covering it up and all this stuff. So that was sort of that started a domino effect in me of really becoming curious about all the unknown stuff. That if they're hiding UFOs, what else are they hiding? And then, of course, around that time, the Zeitgeist films and Loose Change, which were quite prominent in my awakening, because at that time we didn't have Twitter or X as prominent as it is now, and as a free speech platform as it's become. So YouTube, in a sense, was kind of that before Google bought it.
Yeah, they did kind of let anything and everything go through YouTube.
Yeah. So we had access to a lot of stuff that we didn't normally have. And then obviously YouTube bought it up, and then they started censoring again and things. But it was enough to really pique my curiosity and look deeper into the issue. And at the same time, sort of simultaneously, I'm learning about indigenous cultures and the similarities of them all around the world. So I was being exposed to things that I just hadn't been exposed to, and my curiosity was going. So I think it was just being in that energy, and now knowing what I know, sort of basking in that curiosity energy, and having all these disclosures from searching and things, that I had sort of my first big visual contact experience in 2007. And it was in the middle of the day in Burbank, and I talk about it, at the beginning of my show. So that happened, and that was just, now doing C5s and stuff, it's pretty uneventful. It's just a bunch of craft showed up in the sky, and I was blown away. Now we do that every day, but at the time, it was quite eye-opening, to say the least, and got me on this track of just constant researching. I became sort of a fanatic. I started losing interest in what I was doing with stunts and things, because to me, why am I doing something as mundane? And this is nothing against it. I still love stunts and stuff, but at the time, some of the ideas that were going through my head, why am I spending time focusing on how to make a good action scene for a movie when we're not alone in this universe? And that just became my focus. Was like, how can I focus on these little things in life, Hollywood movies that when all this other stuff is happening. So I was running a production company, and I started holding meetings at my studio, once a month, and then doing documentary films and things, screenings. So I had a very large studio that we would turn into a screening hall on the weekends and show documentary films, and have the documentary filmmakers come out and talk about their films. And we were covering 9/11 and GMOs and the corrupt banking industry, and monetary policy and these types of things. So it was a whole gamut of disclosures. The ET one was sort of the gateway drug to open the door for all of them for me. But you can pick any one of those threads, and they all interconnect. So,
were the other various interests that came from that, like the banking and GMOs and monetary policy, did those pique your interest due to the Zeitgeist film?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the films definitely had that effect on me.
I never watched the Zeitgeist, but I've seen clips of it, and I know that it's very much like a documentary I watched, which was called, I'll remember it and say it later, but it was a documentary about consciousness and how the basically showed stuff about Illuminati and how the Fed works and all that stuff. And this was right after I met Treb, so this was like 2010. It was called an esoteric something. But yeah, so I imagine Zeitgeist had a lot of those types of things in it too.
Yeah. There was a number of those, Illuminati and control groups that have, and then obviously now it's you would say this stuff at that time and people would just roll their eyes and think you're nuts. now you can sort of have the conversation to an extent. You still bring up Freemasonry and Illuminati, and people, instead of them rolling their eyes, I think they get a different idea of what it is. Everybody's there's so much information out there now about that, and same with reptilians. That whole concept that David Icke presented back in the late 90s, early 2000s, or whenever he was coming out. Most people just rolled their head. Now they're taking and running with it a whole nother direction, and you're just like, whoa, slow down. We it's great now that you're acknowledging that they exist, but now you're just going down way too many rabbit holes. So there's a lot out there, and we're getting exposed to more. But at that time, it was still very new and fresh and hard to access. And because of my, we could say, I guess, autistic into it, now that we've sort of, there's different layers of the spectrum, and we sort of can talk about it at certain types of fanaticisms, or I call it, coming from my otaku Japanese, my being a fan of Japanese culture in anime and manga. There's I don't know if you know the word, Rob, otaku. Did we talk about otakus before?
I've heard that word before, but I'm not 100% sure what it means.
It's a bit of like a fanaticism. It's like a Star Trek. Back in let's say the 80s and 90s, there were Star Trek conventions, and you were a Trekkie if you were.
Oh yeah.
And now that whole, now you go to Comic-Con and like it's a cool thing, right? At that time though, it was like only the nerds and the fanatics were into Star Trek.
Right.
So that in Japanese, it's called otaku, or otaku culture, and it's got its own sort of, those types of people who hyper focus on something, and the Japanese culture is full of them. And it doesn't have to be necessarily comic books or anime, but it could be anything. You can have your Harley Davidson otaku. You can have your sports car otaku, and this just means they're just really into it. So you find somebody that has their passion in something, and they, you and I have the interest in guns. We talk about that sometimes.
Yeah.
But then there's people that go really into it, right? And with comics and anime, I was one of those. I collected comics as a kid, so I kind of was on that in that otaku spectrum, if we want to call it that. And I think there is a correlation with autism, because I do see a lot of people at those conventions that have they're super hyper focused. They know all the details and everything, and sweet souls. But there's some other aspects of social relationships that may not be as developed as sort of what we call normal. In my making sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very similar to like an autistic special interest is what they call it, where someone's just so focused on that, and then everything to the side kind of melts away.
Right. So I think I'm in that direction, because that's helped me to get to Japan at a young age. I moved there when I was 19. I sort of forgot to say about that, and learned Japanese, and started training and working with the stunt and action groups out there, which then led me to Hong Kong, and I ended up working with Jackie Chan, and again, same kind of thing, because I think I had even though I didn't have the physical ability, I had the focus that I could go, when I sort of set my mind to it, I would go and do it and get it done. Including training my body, which I had, again, in high school. I was a jock illiterate. I hated PE. I did not want to go and do any of that stuff. But then my passion for action cinema, when I saw Jackie Chan do his magic on screen, and Bruce Lee, I fell in love and just went hyper focused into that genre and that world, which then led to me, pursuing it in Japan and going several layers deep. But I sort of take that in with the UFO subject. So once I sort of discovered that there was something there to this, boom, I went all in, and eventually ended up producing the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure in 2013, which was the 5-day mock congressional hearing in Washington, D.C., putting together over 40 witnesses, mostly ex-government and military folks, to testify in front of 6 former members of Congress that we're not alone in the universe, and or on this earth. And that was sort of an activist event, sort of to try to urge and push Congress to actually have legitimate hearings, which they finally had last year. They're just beginning some of these, and that's a whole nother shit show of of politics. And every day there's a new, like, this new Kona blue thing, which is I don't know, Rob, I don't think you follow the that whole UAP project, ATIP, and all that stuff that's going on in the Pentagon, and that stuff that still interests me. But after doing the citizen hearing, I sort of realized that the psychological and mental games that the military industrial complex plays, and the secrecy and all this stuff, is you're sort of playing. We were talking about, Rob and I were talking about Buckminster Fuller just before getting on the call here, and he has a great quote that I'm going to butcher a little bit here, but he says, you don't change things within the same mentality. I think Albert Einstein has a similar quote, but basically the Buckminster Fuller saying, like, institutions and things like that, you can't change them within the same rules. You have to literally go build something new. And
that's very true.
That's always been part of my sort of observing, after going through the stresses and the shit show that the citizen hearing was. And it turned out to be a great product, and it's on YouTube for free now. You can watch it, and it's a great reference for information. However, Congress is a mess. We just saw, the most of the Congress, 200 something members or whatever it was, just sign off and give more money to these other warring nations that are, meanwhile, the borders completely open. And I don't want to make this political, but I mean the insanity and the lack of just common sense that that our Congress is, and that our world government is. I mean, our government, but the world's governments, and the people that are in charge are, as we know now, are psychopaths, and they don't really have the best interest for the people. And so I got to learn all that early, dealing with the citizen hearing and Congress and all that stuff, and realizing that, okay, this is not how we're going to fix the problem. The problem of the world has to come from building something new. And at the same time, I started interviewing channelers like yourself, and these were the lessons. They're sort of saying the same things. They're like, yeah, guys, this is you're beating a dead horse. You're not going to get through with this new paradigm of reality, of disclosure that comes with this new paradigm. You're not going to get it by petitioning the government and playing the game, so to say. So I saw the channeling messages as an opportunity to step outside of that reality and of the game, and sort of get a new story, a new way of doing things. And even though for many people it's so new and so different, it was sort of hard to comprehend. But I found a lot of wisdom and guidance, and it's just been a lot of fun to follow that thread all these years. So for 10 years, I think, Rob, is when we probably met almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, 2014.
So that's that, just following that thread and that joy has been what an honor. And to see the recipients, I guess, the people embrace the messages, and my show going on to doing well on Gaia, and moving, it's now on Tubi and Roku, and podcasts, and just the exponential growth that it's been having. It's been really nice. So long-winded opening there, but that's where we're at.
Well, I appreciate it, because it gives us insight too on things that are happening now, both with you and kind of worldwide. So let's go back to the citizens hearing for a minute. I know that you don't care, and you are correct. I don't follow all the hearings that happen, or the UAP stuff with the Pentagon that you were talking about. I'm not even sure what that is specifically, but I get a lot of feedback from people and watch clips on YouTube and various other places of the hearings. So I keep up to it to the extent that I want to at that level. But I agree with you. The government doesn't do anything well, and they have a lot of reasons not to be transparent with the public. So when it comes down to it, even though you might not like that it's happening the way it is, or you don't, enjoy seeing it, how does it feel to have created a citizens hearing and then see finally, after all that time, they're actually doing things in there, and at least telling people one truth: hey, these are real, we're not alone.
Yeah, no, that alone, I'm super excited. I mean, we are in such a transformational period in humanity, and I love those marker points that we can now say, hey, just 10 years ago, the battles I was trying to have, Rachel Maddow coming out and laugh and trying to make fun of our event, other news publications, mainstream, calling us, tinfoil, with headlines, tinfoil hatters meeting in Washington. To go from that to where we are now, where you have Congressman, Burchett and Congresswoman Luna going out on national TV and talking about extra dimensionals are a real thing, and we're trying to pull more information, and the Pentagon's blocking us.
That's huge.
It's huge. It's super huge. So I am in no way disappointed. I think we've come so far in such a short amount of time. But there's always the but. The but is, there is access to, what we produced in the citizen hearings is 32 hours of testimony that anybody can go and watch right now. And it goes really deep into a lot of the different cases, And just if you have any kind of doubt into if this phenomenon is real, just watch 32 hours of testimony and go investigate some of these cases, and there's no doubt in your mind that ETs are real and they've been amongst us and we've been doing all this stuff. And it's just, I guess what blows my mind is even still, we do have Congresswoman Luna Burchett and others talking on Tucker Carlson talking about extra dimensionals, Joe Rogan. Everybody's doing their job and they're doing it quite well, and they are having the conversation. But even with all of that, it still blows my mind how there is still this denying of a majority of the public that is just in absolute denial, or calling them demonic or evil. And even Congressman Burchett came out 2 weeks ago. I posted this in my over my membership page. I do a news breakdown every week, and he literally was calling CE5s, and they actually called CE5. They actually one of the journalists said, CE5. I think coining it after Stephen Greer's stuff. Said that it's the same as calling demons.
Oh, Lord.
and you had that on a pretty big news network. So it just, again, those types of things just blow my mind. As much information is accessible and available, and we're doing CE5s all the time, and there's amazing things happening, far from demonic,
Right.
and so and yet you have people that just, they're drinking the Kool-Aid without any personal exploration or vetting for themselves. They just simply take the word of what Congressman Burchett, and I happen to like Congressman Burchett a lot. I like everything he's doing, but that so he comes out and says that, and how many people are going to go with that, and how many other people that just have no clue what this is just label it demonic or even false, and try to invalidate other people's experiences in the name of trying to save their own belief systems, because their belief systems are shattering. They have to.
Yeah, that's the part of the ego and the human consciousness is designed to save yourself, and a lot of those people don't want their reality to break because they have so much invested as a part of their actual identity.
Yeah. So it's frustrating, but so there's kind of it's a double-edged sword. It's from one angle, absolutely, we're celebrating. It's amazing. It's so cool to be in this time of transformation. And from another angle, you're like, really? Are we still there? We haven't, some aspects we're really far, and some aspects we still have a long ways to go. So but at the end of the day, it's more celebratory. The stuff, those people they'll get there when they get there. And in the meantime, the cool stuff that like you and I are doing at our events, and the conversations we're having, and the amount of healing that people are receiving, and sort of themselves doing the healing work themselves. So it's great to watch.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, I don't think that whole demonic thing is anything new, at least from the time I started channeling publicly. That was one of the very first comments I think I read on my first YouTube video I ever released. And, it probably didn't help because Treb is a reptilian, but...
You had the hardest challenge out of everybody.
It was not an easy road back, but there was actually a ton of more people receptive to it, or at least open to it, than there were people who didn't. And I think that's the way now. It's just the naysayers have the larger voice, and anything that media can back up, or anything that people in Congress can do that might boo-hoo, will always be amplified and voices heard. But the good thing is, too, watching how the world's unfolded, to anyone who has a level of critical thinking. I've met people who are on both sides of the aisle, who have both sides, like during the pandemic, they took opposite stances, and still to this day, both groups of people are like, yeah, I don't think my side is telling me everything. I don't think my side is being honest with me about A, B, and C. So to me, that's huge, and it also lends some validity to not trusting everything you hear on the news and everything you hear in Congress, which is huge importance. So, personally, I've seen tons more people be open-minded about this than reverting or shutting down the open mind. But I think Christian beliefs are always going to be Christian beliefs, and it's still pretty heavy in our community. United States community being, a large chunk being Christians. And I guess with my scientific mind, my channeling experience, and with common sense, I would say, okay, so if the Bible's true, this God who created humans, why would he waste an entire universe on empty space? You would think he would want to create other beings to be also God's children, if you're going to believe in the Christianity. And, Christian mysticism has grown a lot too, which I love, because these are the Christians who are like, we're going to look at this whole Bible and the Christian philosophy from an entirely different angle. And these people are really opened up to it. So I've been enjoying that. So let's go from there. Let's go to the interview with Extra Dimensionals. A lot of people who followed that found it through Gaia TV. And Gaia TV hasn't released all the episodes at this point. So you have still episodes that were not aired there that you have available now. Is this something you're going to continue? We talked when we were in Sedona, and is there ever going to be a season 4 for interview with Extra Dimensional?
Yeah, right. So backing up right now on Vimeo, which is what I started. I first started off just releasing these, self-publishing them on Vimeo on demand. So unfortunately, it doesn't have the user numbers that some of like Amazon's or these others. So it was a small crowd at first that got into it, but then Gaia picked it up in 2000. I think they started airing it in 2019, and it was quite, or maybe 18. It was quite a hit for them, and they ended up. I didn't necessarily at that time have seasons. I was just releasing an episode when I could get it done, and then they said, "Okay, we're gonna release your show, and then we'll call it a season 1, essentially." And it did really well. So then they ordered. They said, "Hey, do you think you can put another season together for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And that was just before COVID hit. So I had just wrapped and delivered to them season 2. COVID hit, and then everybody was sending me all these messages during COVID. A lot of people, I think that was a big time for people to tune into the show. They had a lot of looking for new content, and that's luckily when my show took off. And so I was getting all these messages. Thank you. This is a great service and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I was getting jazzed and motivated. I'm like, okay, let's keep going. But at the time Gaia hadn't reached, they were like, yeah, we're not sure. We're still seeing where things are going. I was like, okay, well, I told myself, I'm going to keep shooting, because keep filming these episodes, because I'm just getting such a overflow of people literally contacting me every day wanting more. So I did. So I ended up sort of filming a full 28 episodes for season 3. And I had most of them done, but eventually Gaia came back and they said, "Hey, well, we'd love to pick some of the episodes, do a limited release of season 3." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, something's better than nothing." So then they chose which episodes they wanted and put that out. They're at Sedona at the conference. I did bump into a couple Gaia people who said they might be interested in some of the remaining episodes. So talks beyond that haven't gone anywhere, but I'm hoping that they might pick some up, but pick some more of the other episodes up. But yeah, so I sort of ended season 3 with just recently with Heather, who you had on the show last week.
Yeah.
Finished her interviews and put them out there. So that's sort of a wrap on season 3, 28 episodes. Season 1 has 30, season 2 has 25. So nice middle ground there. So for now, I've sort of put a period on the show. We'll see what happens in the future, but I've been doing my own membership group weekly thing, having different guests on, which has now turned into a podcast. So I feel with the advancement of Zoom and the technologies, we can do these interviews quite well online and get more content out faster to the people. Where for my other show, it takes me a good month or so per episode to film, to edit. There's a lot from start to finish. Is quite a process. And they're wonderful in what they do, but I feel I may be switching things up and wanting to spend more time and focused on live events like what we're doing with the Lumian Life Expo.
Well, this was a turning point for both of us. The very first Sedona trip that we went to, you had been doing things, around, but I know once COVID hit, you kind of pulled out of the community just because of all the craziness that came along with it. And then
you mean with in the terms of like Hollywood stuff?
No, I mean for the events in the spiritual community, they weren't having a bunch of them because of COVID, but also the ones that they did have open to, a lot of them were in California where the regulations were kind of crazy and all that stuff too. But we went to Sedona last October, September-ish, I think, where we did in my mind, the most successful, best, amazing C5 that I had ever taken part of, and with that large of a number of people. And it really kind of lit a fire under both of us to do more things and get out and do events and stuff like that. And is that the point where you decided that you wanted to pull together the Lemurian Life Expo?
No, actually, I had planned to do it before then, and that was just a confirmation in a sense.
I see.
So
because I knew we were excited as hell about that, just like I was, because it went amazingly. And it wasn't necessarily the amount of people, because the one we did more recently had a lot more people there, but the amount of people that had contact themselves, the amount of people who we had the opportunity to help with their journey, with their personal contact experiences, things like that. That's always rewarding. And that's the one excitement both of us have shared since we've known each other, is when someone looks at something that we do, our channeling, your show, and they're like, wow, this is really life-changing for me. That's a high level reward for us too, to be a part of someone else's journey is pretty big.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's that's what keeps us, I think, doing it, is whether we have a contract from Gaia or not, we're going to do it because we love doing it. And to get that sort of reward. So we're already doing something we love. I know you love what you do, and I love what I do. So to get that extra validation from other people who are consuming the content or tuning in, that's just icing on the cake. So it's because we're not often, I think, in many professions, people do things that they love, but they don't get that immediate response in appreciation from the audiences. We're in this type of work, this unique type of work we're doing here with being in the public and sharing this information is it's an honor, and it's well received, or we get immediate feedback. So if people hated it, I don't know, would you still follow your passion? I don't know. There are the haters. We navigate through them, but for the most part, there's definitely more of a positive repercussions from the people tuning in to this information and integrating some of the teachings. So so we're in a blessed place, and it just motivates me to do more, to try to do more events and do more things. Work with what you have. Yes, we were dealing with COVID restrictions before. We were dealing with insane divide in the country when it came to vaccine policies and different belief systems. So it was really hard to bring people together for something.
Oh
uh,
man.
which we did in small amounts, small groups. I was doing my monthly CE5s, getting together, groups of people who were not uh, buying into it, so to say, not really giving the energy away to those narratives that were happening. So, and that was awesome. It was awesome to be a part of those groups and do those gatherings. It was actually called here in Big Bear. We're calling it the Gathering. Every month we get together and I'd do some breath work, and we'd do some C5 calling in, and then we'd even have DJs come in and spin music and dance under the stars, and it was cool. So, but now, yes, I think the coherence is coming back. People are becoming aware of the psychological games being played by governments and media, and they're tuning more into themselves, into what their own inner journey is telling them and guiding them to go on. And I think for most of us, that inner journey is about connections and relationships. And as we follow those, we find out that all of this separation nonsense from one masking up to having different, being shamed or shunned based on your belief system for a political party or a medical procedure. These are nonsensical and they shouldn't be dividing us. So I think that cohesion is coming back to the world here, and part of that is having the physical events again. And because there is a physical, I think that was part of all the shenanigans and manipulations, was to disconnect people physically, so that energy exchange doesn't happen. And people ended up, there's been a lot, it still is a lot of damage that we're trying to repair from lockdowns and from isolation, from kids in the schools to just, people dealing with depression and things like that. So from being isolated for so long, it's not good for society. It's not good for the people. So, so we can do some repair work with doing our physical events in person, bringing people together, having that heart energy connect. We can do it in this way too, but there is something really unique and special about the physical in-person stuff that I'm sure, Rob, experiencing of late, you probably are noticing that as well.
Oh yeah, it's drastically different. As beautiful as the online get-togethers are, being in person, you get to be in the aura fields of these people who are emanating love and who have shared excitements. For me, I think it's even a little step different from what it is with you. You had that connection with this group that you've got in person every month. And
Yeah.
for me, in Michigan, we don't have that group here. Ours is only online. So for me, it adds that extra layer of special. Plus, 90% of my time is dedicated to being here with my family. So that 10% where I get out and go out and connect with these people is great. And, so yeah, I completely feel what you're saying. And the damage that was done through that whole experience to people, it's really hard. I actually have a young person in my life who I'm related to, who's going through a lot of trauma right now. After schools were shut down, and he was in the beginning of high school when that happened, and he's dealing with really bad depression right now. Still, even though school's back. they're just having that year. Michigan was one of the hardest lockdown states, right there with California and New York. Michigan was right there, and it's sad, and the economic damage too. It breaks my heart. I see these places that were open since my dad was a kid, and even one of them that hung in there till 2023 had to shut down. I there's maybe 4 or 5 stores now that were from my childhood in this Kalamazoo area that are left from going through that. All the other dozens and dozens just gone. And it's heartbreaking, people's economic issues now. So bringing together people is it's needed, and it's not just needed for spiritual events, which is what I love. Why I love what you do with your local community there in Big Bear. You get together with people about, Christ, I forget what it's called. Sorry.
Gardening groups.
Basically, yeah. Well, the agricultural and
Yeah.
self-sustaining, and all of it. I
Well,
love that.
and that's really where the sense of community came in so strong during the COVID psyop, was because many of us, I think, when you're depending on your location and your way of thinking, and there's something about mountain people that most of them retreat up to the mountains because they're kind of wanting to get away from the city stuff and the craziness. So you already there, you kind of have a different kind of thinking of people. And they're not all spiritual and that kind of thing. I'm just saying there's a little bit of distrust in let's say government or the establishment. So right away when COVID hit, there was many in our community that were really questioning the narrative, and including our sheriff. And our sheriff would come to the meetings, and it was a nice peace of mind because we could in real time get information from what the perspective from the sheriff's department, police department, and other parts of the city that could see things from their vantage point, and then share that information. And that's what was, they were shutting down the churches and everything else because they didn't want people talking. They didn't want people to share information, and information sharing is key. And that's why the whole censorship thing and is such a big deal right now on Twitter and X. And you have the head of Australia calling for Elon Musk's arrest because he's trying to say free, maybe we should pay attention to free speech. So these types of insanities are still going on today, but they really, at that point, with all the fear around COVID, they were really able to do a good job at keeping people isolated. Now that we know after the fact, yes. And maybe, I think Jessica was saying in the comments, maybe that had to happen so we could really understand the importance of connection.
Oh, absolutely. Community becoming again, because look how long before COVID happened, people, even before COVID, the streets of Kalamazoo were empty compared to when I was a teenager. Before the internet became popularized, we switched our lives to connecting with people through technology instead of face to face already.
Right.
That was just a huge shove, like from the 10-yard line down to half field.
Yeah, absolutely. And and that was something I started paying attention to right away, and striving to make the connections. I went to all my neighbor's house in as much as and up and down my neighborhood and was like, hey, I'm this guy. I know I've been living here for a long time, but we've never connected, but I think we should. And it's great. I think if we can get our communities sort of reconnected, I think 90% of the nonsense that's happening in the world right now would sort of come to an end. Anyways, what we're doing with Lumian Life Expo is just a one aspect is the connection in person aspect, but I think that is a big one. Especially with the energies, localized energies of Mount Shasta. And I know for you, Rob, is that I know you're excited. Shasta's new on your book, right?
Oh yeah. Yep, never been there before. Always heard about it from a lot of people who I knew, loved, respected, and trusted their sense of energy, including you. And yeah, so it's always been on my to-do list. Um, can you explain too a little bit about why you're calling it the Lemurian Life Expo? How is the Lemurian energy connected to Mount Shasta?
Yeah, so this was sort of when I started the show. A lot of people, I started meeting people in the spiritual community, um, and Sedona was always there. It was easy to access for me being in California, Southern California. So in 2010, I started going to Sedona and sort of doing every year, going a couple times a year, sometimes more than a couple, just to get that. There's a connection there with the land that you just feel when you're in. One is it's the majestic beauty of the red rocks, but now, Rob, after you've been there, you can feel it, right? There's something in this city, or in the not the city, but the rocks in that area that you
Oh yeah.
literally can feel in your bones. And I'm not, intuitive by any means. I think this is just why a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say any means. I'm still working. I'm not as intuitive as the people of my show. Let's just say that. Um, and but I can still start to feel subtle energies, and I think people feel it in different ways. People um, for different reasons at different times in their lives are drawn to specific places and things, and for different reasons. But I think sometimes it's just a place has this pull on you. And so I was doing the show and sort of releasing episodes in Sedona a lot, because a lot of the spiritual people I interviewed were there, or in Arizona area. But I kept getting people telling me about Shasta, 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 Shasta. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there. It's a 11 hour drive from LA. So I kind of put it off until COVID happened. And I got sort of the push to continue to work. And through synchronicity, just a lot of people reaching out and saying, "No, have you interviewed this person or that person?" And it turns out I had quite a list of people collected for people in Shasta. So I was like, okay, it's time to make the Shasta trip, and did that. And just like with Sedona, as soon as you arrive there, you feel something. There's something in the air, so to say, by the mountain, something energetic that that I felt almost stronger than Sedona. It was like what it brought me back to the first time I went to Sedona. When you first go there and you feel that energy, I think there's something familiar, but it's new, and it's that whole combination of new, familiar, cool, different, whatever. So I was back in Shasta now for my first time, and I was feeling that energy. So, and I ended up doing a number of interviews at that trip, and then going back another year later, and then going back. So it's like Sedona now. Shasta has been this this area, and I've got to go get my yearly dose of
That's
Shasta.
amazing if it was stronger than Sedona, because Sedona and Asheville are literally the only two places I've felt high etherical energies automatically just by walking in the place. Usually, to other places it exists there, but you have to find a way to tap into it, or to sync yourself to it. But those places for me were just instantly connected.
Yeah, and it was in that being in that energy, and being and doing the interviews, that I started to uncover more about the idea of Telos, and this ancient Lemurian city that is said to exist within the mountain. Now, when you say it like I just said it, immediately your eyes roll, and especially if you're talking to somebody who hasn't been into these types of conversations, like, how is there a city in the mountain and all this stuff? So, they would have dug and found it by now, and yes, you're right. But so the legends of Lemuria, the idea of Lemuria, which most people who hear of Atlantis, if you do a little digging, you start to hear of Lemuria. And then it's sort of when I did my interview with Adama, who's the head priest of Lemuria, channeled through Asara Adams. I got more details on how that went down and how that energetically that city still exists, and maybe why that region or that area is such a high vibration, or because there are some low vibrations there too. Let's just say it's such a portal of energy. Um, and that story really started picking up pace as I was understanding it and dissecting it, because it for me personally, I know the Atlantean story resonates with a lot of people for the reason why we're going through what we're going now. But I found the Lemurian story a little more uh, refreshing and positive, because I think the Atlantean story was more of the doom and gloom, and we're sort of repeating that cycle now. And the Lemurian story offers a more, I think, promising, a more a less doom and gloom type situation. And for me, a lot of this stuff, all of this, the channelers and the speaking and the wisdom that's coming through, I love it all. But ultimately, my goal in seeking this information out is to uncover a better story for humanity. And I know I'm being kind of vague here and trying to make it as clear as possible, but for me, whether all of the storylines that come out through this, whether they're true or not, my priority is more about finding a story that is the most integrated and the most possible based on current situations. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, but maybe for a little clarity, what's the difference from the Atlantean story to the Lemurian story?
So
I mean, how?
yeah,
Sorry, it just
yeah.
the Lemurian story. I'm not fully aware of. I've heard different things from different people, but Atlantis seems to have been a failure of consciousness, where they were at the precipice. Then all of a sudden, ego became involved, and division happened, and it broke down. But what's the Lemurian story?
Very much the same, however, predating. I think the inception of Lemuria predates Atlantis. So I've heard, and each, depending on the channel and depending on the information, it's the details are going to differ ever so slightly. And for me, I always have to, look through the wider lens at this and look where the dots do connect and not be so hyper focused on where they don't.
Sure.
So where they do connect for me is that there seems to be a consensus that Lemuria and Atlantis existed at the same time. However, Lemuria may have predated Atlantis in its initial inception. Atlantis came along a little bit after, and then the so-called ego virus that infected Atlantis then began to spill over into Lemuria. So basically Lemuria, it said, was this civilization that existed in the Pacific, and Atlantis more in the Atlantic, and the remnants of the islands, the Polynesian islands, Hawaii, and even Japan, and island like Catalina Island and islands off of California, as well, going all the way down to Ecuador and in South America. This whole continent was called Mu, and it was quite a vast civilization of a higher vibration, maybe even fourth density. And Egyptian, I would say, would come. I'm just reading the comments. Came more from the Atlantean civilization, but they were at points they were integrated, and the reason I like the Lemurian story is it sort of gives us a permission slip or access in the storyline that humanity doesn't have to strive to go anywhere, that we were already fifth dimensional beings. I'm sorry, yeah, fifth dimensional or fourth density beings operating harmoniously with nature. And so in a lot of these spiritual ideas, we kind of think that we have to evolve into that. And I like the Lemurian story because it sort of says we evolved out of that. And if we evolved out of it, then it's going to be really easy to get back because we already have the genetic makeup and the story already exists. So we just have to remember instead of writing a new story. And the so I feel like that's the shortest distance instead of trying to have the story. That's how I look at all the storylines, like the Anunnaki and this idea, that they genetically engineered humanity and created humans. I think that's a subset of a much bigger story, and Lemuria is part of the bigger story. That perhaps the Lyrans, I think it's just sort of said Lyrans, Palladians, cousins, did in fact come here way back during the Lemurian times, or perhaps predating Lemuria, and genetically, or I should say, with the original humans on that, which were more sort of Neanderthal or ape-like, they then connected with them and then started procreating, and that's when this synergy of them lowering their vibration in order to interact with the native species of our planet at that time, and then created this beautiful civilization where everybody worked in harmony with nature. I love that idea. I think it's great. And then they got to a high enough place where other ET races would come and go and start doing, Anunnaki doing their side shoot things and maybe some reptilian stuff over here and whatnot.
Always some reptilian stuff.
Yeah, but I feel that it's a vast story, and you're not sort of isolating or telling anybody, no, that didn't happen to this. So that
Right.
negating, that's why I say it's an integral story in the sense of it integrates all the different storylines that we have out there.
And I think too that's one of the people's contention to some of these ideas, the Lemurian, Atlantean, like Aridif and Treb, when they shared this idea of the previous incarnation cycles for Earth, they share it in a way that I've never heard it shared elsewise. And then I hear other channelers sharing it completely different ways, and I hear some sharing them the exact same way. But the fact is, we know that there have been other cycles of incarnation here, either other versions of previous humans or other races altogether that were descended from. Whatever the case is, I agree with you. It doesn't really matter. It does from that point of people wanting to understand and know. But if you feel into the energy, you'll get there anyway. Even if you don't have the exact blueprint, you kind of feel into that, and you get the idea of what it was. And it's always fascinating to me too. The other thing too, a lot of people mix up the Lemurian and Lemanian energies, and those are two different things from at least my understanding.
Yeah, could you explain that? Because I think you mentioned that in one of your channelings, going back to the different, and I know even in my original interview with Aridif, we talked about another race as well that had an old race. So there's like 4 that you've talked about, I think.
Yeah, there's 5 incarnation cycles before humans, from what Treb and Aridif said. The first one was the Conquis, and they were an aquatic race. Yeah, and they shipped off to Mars and then elsewhere after that. It was during the time of Earth when oxygen started becoming abundant, and they couldn't live in oxygen, so they had to find a way off planet. That was the only race that I know of that left planet permanently, that started from Earth. And then after that, there was the Lumanians, which actually Seth talks about through Jane Roberts. They were a humanoid race that were very skinny and very tall, and had almost an allergy to violence. So they had this god that they worshipped that was a very violent, warlike god, which is where Christianity and any of the religions that we have that are Abrahamic religions come from, was that archetype of the god war, because they needed that. They weren't safe in their bodies, and they never adapted, so they died out before they ever got to fourth density. Seth talks about it a little bit. Aridif and Treb have expanded on it from that. And then after that, you have the Lemurians and Atlanteans, and that was considered one cycle, two separate races, at least from, like I said, the way Aridif and Treb explained it. And that was two groups of beings who cohabitated on Earth and went through a cycle together. And I never knew the Lemurians. I knew they were involved with the Atlanteans, and they did exist at the same time, but I never knew how their journey went. I always assumed that they either ascended to the next level or died out like the Atlanteans did. But the Atlanteans ended up ending their incarnation cycle. And then after that was the reptilian incarnation cycle, where genetics from earlier beings like the dinosaurs were mixed with draconian DNA, which created them. And then the human, which was actually byproduct and aftermarket of Lemurian, or not Lemanian, but Lemurian and Atlantean, the beings who brought that with the Anunnaki, with the changes in the earliest form of humans, actually were Pleiadian and reptilian mixture. These were a group of Pleiadians that wanted to explore masculine energy more, so that they ended up using draconian DNA, or stealing draconian DNA and using it in their genome, because they were genetic masters, or at least starting their genetic mastery at that point. And they integrated themselves with that, and then started the human line from where we were. But through that, Pleiadian beings and Syrian beings brought some of those old genetics back from Atlantis and Lemuria. And that's my understanding of it from the way Treb and Aridif shared. But again, I appreciate that that's the perspective that they've shared with me. But I know it's a perspective. They're reading energies that are really far away from us right now. They're, even though it's a part of the earth and it's ingrained inside of the earth as kind of like an archive, whether it's through the grid system or through the crystal grid, or whatever it is, they access that. But energetically, we're in a different now than they are. So they still exist, just not right now with us. So
yeah, that's what really fascinated me with the Telos story in Shasta, is to get more of the complete story. And that's essentially what it is that the Telos civilization is an offshoot of the Lemurian civilization that sort of got a little tip that these catastrophes were going to be coming. And I think many both in Atlantis and Lemurian, many groups, you have like the Hopi and the Mayan and others that all have similar stories where they talk about their ancestors fled or had listened to spiritual guidance at the time to get them to safety. So when these cataclysms happened, they didn't perish overnight, so to say. And that seems to be the case with Telos. Is this group took refuge into the lava tubes, and then ended up pursuing their spiritual practices, and in a sense evolving to fifth density, while other on their own timeline, where where we're sort of in this other, like you were saying, this other timeline of where the catastrophes, we're still in that lower density version. So they're in a fourth density version of Earth that is commonly known. People talk about the Agartha network in Shambhala and these types of places. So that's part of this higher vibratory Earth place where all those different groups hang out and talk, and in addition to other ET races. So in a sense, it's that's, I think, maybe one of those portals at Shasta, is where those gateways, where those two worlds can interact because of the high consciousness of the mountain, and maybe the ascension work that the tele-civilization did. And still now, it's still this my first word, I remember driving through the forest in Shasta, the first word that always came to mind was prestige. There's something preserved there in the Shasta woods that is that's not in other woods of the world, even though, biologically there might be, similar vegetation and similar trees and these types of things. There was just something in Shasta, like the moss growing on the trees and something. I was like, this is prestige. And and other people may have different experiences of that. They may use different vocabulary, but that was sort of my experience. And I'm sort of equating that to this old energy of Lemuria is somehow kept in the trees and in the earth there. So so that's and the story resonates, for me when I'm talking to a Dhamma on the mountain through Sara, and I'm like, yeah, that all makes sense. Most people are just like, what are you talking about? But I'm like, no, this all makes sense. It actually connects a lot of the dots that I've been curious about, hearing all the different, the Anunnaki story and these others. So
Yeah, it makes sense, and the energy there. Something that Treb and Aridif shared too is that two major lines cross. Like in the grid system, there are the major lines, the minor lines, the secondary, tertiary, fourth, fifth, sixth layer lines. So there are all these different size of lines, and two of the major lines, which are like whenever two lines connect, there becomes a chakra or sub chakra of the earth, and that's one of them. Is there on Mount Shasta? John said something interesting in the chat too, which is a very unique perspective. The channeling might just be a carrot to encourage the group energy, to get back to that energy of what we have and have possibility. That's interesting. We've only got about 15 minutes, and normally we go through the questions, but we've already asked you those probably twice by now. So instead, I want to talk about the event at the expo. Can you tell us a little bit about, just give us some information about the event, about what your vision for this event is, both energetically and what kind of presenters we're going to have there and everything?
Yeah. So, doing this journey on Interview with Ed, I've had the opportunity to interact and meet amazing people from all over the world, really. But the different modalities and different teachings coming from the channelings, and I feel, with this theme of Lemuria. So, and that was, I put out a bunch of clips from like yourself, Rob, and others who are going to be presenting, sort of asking, what is Lemuria? And I love this sort of exploration for my own selfish inquiries, because everybody has such a unique perspective on what Lemuria is, but there are some key themes that overlap. And the key themes are this connection to nature and ancient wisdom. So like indigenous teachings and indigenous communities revere Shasta for its ancient wisdom that beings in those areas contain, but also the star people that go in and out of the mountain. So I felt, first of all, me and yourself having these star family connections. I think Lemuria is a great representation of the cosmic aspects, because there's so much activity there. There are UFOs going in and out of the mountain almost on a nightly basis. And then you have Sasquatch that are prominent in the woods. So you have that extra dimensional wisdom of those realms, the fairy realms. There's fairy falls, and there's a lot of extra dimensional energies, not limited to the cosmic ones. So during my exploration on my show, I started with the cosmic ones, and I went all the way, into fairies and unicorns, and Pregrete and Jules, who have the Stargate. They used to be based. They're in transit right now, but I interviewed them in Shasta, found out about their work, connected with the unicorns with Jules, and they also, embrace sort of all of the different energies, from both the more earth-based energies and the cosmic energies, extra-dimensional, extra-terrestrial, and the interdimensional, the idea of telos. So again, this overlapping, like, it just contains all the things that I'm into, all my weird little tangents that I go on and rabbit holes I've been down. It just brings it all together in this one location, and the different presenters that we're going to have there are sort of filling in all the different gaps. So we have a seal who's bringing sort of angelic, the Elohim energies, Asara, who brings through Adama from Telos, as well as a galactic council, that it's a smaller group that are constantly interacting with the people of Telos. Wendy and the Palladians, yourself, Rob, and the galactic energies you bring through, Jamie Price and the Lyrans, and Tyler and Ryok from the Sasani, and Gail and Lyrica and Jessica, who have through the Autistic Collective, but the energies that they're bringing through is like Mother Mary energies and a very divine feminine, in a sense, Lemurian. Again, Lemurian represents that divine feminine. A lot of people talking about that energy prominent. Lisa Royale's husband, Ron, he has a modality of quantum navigation, and I just put out a podcast with him and how he's talking about the integrative energies of this new paradigm that we're moving into. Again, closer to that Lemurian energy than I would say the Atlantean energy. There's aspects of them both, but I do feel that we sort of tried the Atlantean thing out and it didn't work out so well. Lemurian was working great, and then we downgraded because we let the ego in. So we just need to up our discernment a little bit, just have people, kumbaya in the woods is great, but just double checking that your kumbaya is not run by a crazy cult leader. So
that helps.
So that I think that's what this whole Atlantean ego experiment is. But and then going into with Heidi, Heidi, he's an animal communicator. She's a rock star in Japan. Every Japanese household name or person knows Heidi Wright. You just mentioned her name because she's been on some big TV shows there. But I think this connection to reconnecting to our ability to talk to our animals and plants and crystals, that was those were very much used modalities in the Lemurian times. And Heidi is world renowned for her abilities, and she teaches classes on that. Willow, who's also sort of hangs out in those Fey realms and talks to different Fey energies and leprechauns and mushroom sprites and that sort of earthly stuff. And Emily Raw, who does a modality called Dream Council, and she'll be teaching some of that and really paying attention to our dreams and this idea that we have this technology that's available to us every night when we go to bed. And Haruko, who's an amazing artist, and some of her light code art has, from some of the testimony, has been seen inside the Telos city. So I think she's got a connection there and really doing some amazing things. She has a store in Mount Shasta, so very connected to that energy. And Carrie, who does light language and also has a strong connection to indigenous. Her husband is an amazing elder and drum maker, and she's had some profound connections to the mountain and stuff that she'll be sharing. Ben, who's Heather's husband, has some amazing techniques and information with crystal bowls, and then Heather, who you had on the show last week. I'm sure she filled you in on a lot of things, and then myself. So this sort of group that covers, I feel, the whole gamut of what Lemuria stands for and what is possible when we explore the ideas of Lemuria, and when we can reconnect with that energy. These are all the types of, we can call them spiritual technologies or modalities, philosophies that come with this concept of Lemuria.
Yeah, well, you've got a great spectrum of people there, and just I love the Earth energy thing too, because it's something that, as ET channeler and in the field of channeling, which usually connects to Earth collectives, or even spirits who have spent their time in the other realm. Um, I haven't had as much access. You know, uh, I had an old friend that did some fairy channeling before and stuff. I think Daniel Scranton does a little bit, but those types of earthly energies are always amazing when you feel them and when you're in the aura of it. But it's going to be interesting for me to be there too, because I'm going to be able to hear a lot of things that I've not been able to hear. I just because of how life works with kids and channeling, I don't get a chance to listen to a lot of other channeling unless Kalina's watching them, or unless I'm at an event. So it'll be nice to be able to be up close and personal and get this perspective, because out of all of the races, or all of the incarnation cycles that Treb and I have talked about, Lemuria is literally the least talked about one from their sharing. And I don't know if that's because people tend to ask about the other ones, or they shared something about that because there wasn't a ton of information about the Conquis or the Lumanians. But Atlantis is very similar. It's got tons of information. They shared some things about that. But either way, for me personally, my curiosity will get satiated, so I'm excited too. And that's really the thing that I'm enjoying the most. You said something that actually rung my bell a little bit earlier, when you said, hey, even if people didn't resonate with it, would you still do it? And yes, I would, but I also really love helping people. That's like the first time I released my channeling, my idea was like, hey, Treb's information changed my life, black and white, from 1 to 10. And if someone can get a little piece of that in their life, then it's worth sharing, even if I do it, even if I put up 100 videos and only 2 people ever watch it. If one of those 2 people have a tenth of that change, and that was always my intention, was just sharing the information for people who would end up resonating or finding or vibing to. And I really, really love that we are able to help people. And as much as it is exciting to channel, I can do that at home by myself all the time, and not, do that energy. So for me, it really is about having the channeling for other people to have access to it too.
Yeah.
And these live events are just absolutely my favorite way to do that. So I'm looking forward to it. I know Kalina and Lilith are going to be there with us too, and they're excited about it. Um, Everyone I've talked to, Wendy and Tyler, are both good friends of mine, and they're excited to do it. So I'm stoked, brother. I put the links for both your interview with Extra Dimensionals and the Lumian Life Expo in the bio, so anyone can want to check that out. But if anyone has questions about it, or wants to ask something about it, I know you guys have a really good help center at the website.
Yep.
Is there any other way to communicate or to connect if people have questions about it?
Yeah, just message me. Oh, you can message me directly on like on Twitter or Instagram. Um, and but yeah, the help desk is going to be the best thing on there.
It's a
But yeah,
great tool. You guys really did well with that.
yeah, and we have We just updated the site, so there's hotel information. A lot of the Airbnbs have already sold out in the area for that weekend or for that week, and but there are hotels with discounts, links and stuff. So that's all kind of got updated as in the past few days. And yeah, I guess I know I don't want to jump the gun, but we're giving away those live stream passes because we are
Yeah.
going to be live streaming it. So we're excited
Yeah.
about that.
I was just gonna say, anyone who can't make it there can also do it live stream, and using the link below to get access to those live stream tickets. Would be the same way you buy a live ticket. But I do want to give away those tickets, so I'm trying to figure out a question from something we talked about tonight. So if you're there, I know there's about a 10 to 20-second delay at any given time, so I'm gonna draw out saying this, but get next to your keyboard, get next to your phone. We're going to ask a question about something that was talked about tonight. And the first person that answers it correctly in the chat, and I can see everywhere where it's live streamed, I can see all the chats, whether you're on the Facebook page or both of the YouTube pages, wherever you're at, I can see it if you say it. I'm trying to think of a good question.
We covered a bit, but yeah, there's
If you have an idea of a question too, you can always send it in the private chat, Ruben. I'm trying to think because I did a very specific one with Heather, and I forgot to write down anything for specifics as far as things go. All right. Oh, you're writing one? Good. Okay. Yes. All right. So everyone's ready, I hope. I'm going to ask the question. The very first answer will be the winner for tonight's live stream. And that gets access not just to the live stream of the main building or event, but also all the workshops are available for this live stream too. The question I'm going to ask, first to answer gets it. Who is the head priest of Telos? Go. First answer in the chat. And I know there's about a 10-second delay, so I will be here waiting while you guys answer. Oh, is that it?
yeah.
John Craig, the winner. And that's
What was it? I think on my end I saw Just Waking Up came in a second earlier.
Oh.
Or no, but okay, no, I see it. It came Just Waking Up showed up, but then John Crate came up in the it showed up after, but it came up ahead. So maybe that was just a delay.
Let me see. Yeah, because on the YouTube, are you looking at the YouTube or the StreamYard?
I'm looking at StreamYard, so maybe that's a different.
Oh no, the StreamYard should be the most accurate, but I'm gonna look on YouTube too to make sure. Oh, this is the wrong channel. Okay, sorry guys. Let me look. It came through as John first here, but I'm gonna double check for the thing. And the bad thing about YouTube chat is if you use top chat, you're gonna get a different result than if you use live chat. Live chat. Yep, John was the first one on both YouTube live chat and in StreamYard. All right, John, you are the winner. And if you contact me, John, which I know you know how, then we'll get that set up and we'll get you a live stream ticket. So congratulations, John, for the win tonight, everybody. Thank you guys for being here too. Obviously, Ruben, I know you just got back from a very long trip out and about to Japan. Any news you want to share about Japan quickly before we go?
Yeah. Oh man, that's there's a lot happening there. Oh man, where do I begin? It's there's so many positive things and there's so many negative things. It's quite polarized in the good and the bad, but that's kind of all over. But yeah, there's just there's amazing people. My wife and I will be moving back to Japan by the end of the year. That's sort of our goal. for a number of reasons, but main thing is we just miss it. And my wife's Japanese, and I speak fluent Japanese, so it's for me it's like going home anyway. And just excited for the big change, which is not that big of a change for me, but a little, big enough. It's been a while. And yeah, and look forward in the future to having you come and hang out with us, Rob, in Japan. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've not been to Japan either, and that's one of the things I really wanted to do. Yeah, and the Lumian Life Expo might have a nice snuggled place on the opposite end of the year in Japan too, right?
That's what we're looking into. Yeah, we're hoping that we can make that happen. We'll see. This first one, it really depends on how successful this one is. If the more who can come and turn out for it, then what we hope to do is use that momentum to continue to produce live in-person events down the road. So that's our goal. And in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you were here tonight. Thanks again, brother, as always. And I want to thank all of you in the chat. You guys were awesome and amazing, always contributing, always sharing. I really appreciate all of you guys. Come back next week. We're going to have Glenn Mate here. And after that, we're going to have some of the people who are coming to this event that Ruben and I talked about tonight. We're going to have some of these guests coming back. Tyler has been here before, so we're going to get him to come back. But we're also going to have other people from this event popping in to the show. So just keep your eyes peeled. If you go to the Facebook page, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, you'll see all the updates there. But also, if you're subscribed to my ET Whisperer YouTube channel, 1 or 2, you'll get the notification as soon as we create the link. So I appreciate it. Thank you again, brother. I appreciate you being here as always. I love you with all my heart, and thank you.
Love you, brother. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always a good time.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. All right, guys. I love you guys too, and we'll see you next week at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Good night, everybody.